There was a time when I didn't want to wake up anymore. The mornings felt heavy. My body was there, but my soul wasn't. I smiled when people looked at me, but inside, I was gone. It wasn't sadness. It was emptiness. A silence that lived in every corner of my being. No one understood. I was surrounded by people, yet I felt invisible. I wanted to scream for help, but even my voice was tired. And then came the guilt. That cruel little voice whispering, "You have no reason to feel this way. You should be grateful. You should be stronger." But that's the thing about depression, it's not weakness. It's the body saying, "You've carried too much for too long." It's the heart begging, "Please listen to me." For years I tried to escape it. I tried to fight it, to pretend it wasn't there. But the more I resisted, the deeper it pulled me in. Until one day, when I sat in silence and whispered, "I can't keep living like this." And from that silence, a small thought came, gentle but clear. What if I stopped fighting myself? That was the beginning of my healing. Before we go on, if these words are touching something in your heart, take a moment to breathe. And subscribe to this channel. Here we heal together, one word, one thought, one breath at a time. When you live in darkness long enough, even the smallest light feels like a miracle. For me, that light was a book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Her words felt like they were written for me. She said, "The thoughts you think and the words you speak create your experiences." And I realized, my mind had become a place of punishment. Every day, I told myself things that broke my spirit. I'm not enough. I'm failing. I'll never be happy again. And my body listened. It responded with exhaustion, heaviness, and pain. Louise taught me that every thought is an affirmation, whether positive or negative, and that the first step toward healing is to change the way you talk to yourself. So I began small. Each morning, I stood in front of the mirror, even when I didn't want to, and said, "I'm willing to feel better. Not I'm happy. Not I'm perfect. Just I'm willing." That was enough to open a tiny window in my heart. Because healing doesn't start with joy. It starts with willingness. And every day that willingness grew. I had lived most of my life believing that healing meant fixing what was broken. But Louise Hay taught me something radically different. There is nothing wrong with me that love cannot heal. She used to say that every thought we think is creating our future, and I began to understand how much pain I had been recreating through my own thinking. For years, my mind was a battlefield. Every morning, before even opening my eyes, the same thoughts returned like uninvited guests. "You're not enough. You'll never change. Nothing you do matters." And I believed them, every single one. I repeated them so many times that they became the foundation of my reality. But then I started to notice something. Those thoughts were not the truth. They were simply patterns. Old mental habits recorded from childhood, from fear, from rejection, from years of trying to please everyone but myself. And if they were just patterns, that meant I could change them. Louise Hay's affirmation echoed in my heart. I am willing to release the need for this condition. First, I didn't understand it. How could I release the need for depression? Why would I need to be in pain? But then I realized part of me had identified with it. It was familiar. It was the place where I hid from life. Letting go of it meant facing who I really was underneath the sadness, and that was terrifying. Still, I began to practice. Each morning, I would stand in front of the mirror, even when my eyes were swollen from crying, and I would say softly, "I am willing to see things differently today. I am open to loving myself. I am safe." Some mornings, I couldn't even say the words. But Louise always said, "It's okay to start small." So I did. And over time, the words began to feel less like lies and more like seeds. Tiny, fragile seeds that one day started to bloom into new beliefs. My thoughts began to shift. Instead of saying, "I'm broken," I said, "I'm healing." Instead of "I can't go on," I whispered, "I'm learning to breathe again." Instead of "I hate my life," I began to say, "I'm creating a new one." It wasn't magic. It was practice. The day I realized my thoughts were choices was the day I started to feel free. No one had ever told me that I could choose what to believe. That my mind wasn't my enemy. It was simply a garden that needed care. Louise Hay taught that when we plant positive thoughts, they take root and grow stronger each day. And that's exactly what I experienced. I remember one night, after a particularly heavy day, I sat in bed and said out loud, "I no longer choose to suffer." My voice trembled, but something inside me shifted. It was as if my body, my cells, my heart, my entire being, had been waiting for those words. The next morning, for the first time in months, I noticed the sunlight coming through the window. I actually felt it. And I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because I knew my healing had already begun. Louise was right. Every thought you think and every word you speak is creating your life. So I started to speak healing, even when my pain tried to argue otherwise. And little by little, the voice of fear grew quieter, while the voice of love grew stronger. For most of my life, I thought love had to come from someone else. I searched for it in relationships, in achievements, in validation, in attention. I gave everything to others, hoping someone would finally give it back to me. But no matter how much love I received, it was never enough, because I didn't love myself. Louise Hay said something that changed everything. "You've been looking for love in all the wrong places. Start with yourself." At first, I didn't know how to do that. How do you love yourself when you feel broken, when you don't even want to exist? But the truth is, self-love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being there for yourself when no one else is. It's holding your own hand through the storm instead of waiting for someone to rescue you. It's whispering to yourself, "It's okay, I'm still here," when the world feels unbearable. Began small. I started by writing notes to myself on sticky papers. "You're doing your best. You're worthy of peace. You deserve rest." At first they looked silly, even childish. But one morning I woke up, saw those words on my mirror, and realized no one had ever told me that before. No one had ever said, "You deserve peace." That morning I said it out loud. I deserve peace. And something inside me cracked open, not in pain but in release. I began to forgive myself for not knowing how to be perfect. For the mistakes, the wrong turns, the years wasted in fear. Because Louise always said, forgiveness is giving yourself freedom. The more I practiced self-love, the lighter I became. I noticed my body responding. My chest didn't feel so tight, my breathing became softer. Even my face looked different. It was as if my cells were finally hearing words of kindness after years of inner war. Louise used to say, "The body hears everything you say." And I felt it. Every kind word I spoke to myself became medicine. I stopped saying, "I hate my body." Instead I said, "Thank you, body, for carrying me." I stopped saying, "I'm so tired of myself." Instead I said, "I'm learning to understand myself." That shift, from judgment to compassion, was the real healing. Soon the mirror no longer scared me. Looking at myself didn't hurt anymore. Because now, when I looked into my eyes, I saw someone I was learning to love, not someone I wanted to fix. And that love became my anchor. Louise Hay always reminded us, "In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete." I repeated that affirmation until I believed it. Until I understood that I didn't have to earn love. I am love. And that realization didn't just heal my depression. It awakened my soul. When I first heard Louise Hay talk about affirmations, I didn't believe in them. How could a few simple sentences change a lifetime of pain? Sounded too easy, too unrealistic. But I was desperate. And desperation sometimes opens the door to miracles. Louise said something that stayed with me forever. Every thought we think and every word we speak is an affirmation. So I realized, I had been affirming my pain for years. Every time I said, "I can't do this," I was programming my mind to believe it. Every time I said, "I'll never be happy again," my body responded with sadness. Every cell in my body was listening to my words and obeying. That realization shook me. If my words had the power to destroy me, they also had the power to rebuild me. So I began slowly choosing my new thoughts with care. Each morning, before touching my phone or speaking to anyone, I stood in front of the mirror and said, "I am safe. I am healing. I am open to love." First my voice trembled. Sometimes I cried. But I didn't stop. Because Louise said, "Repetition is how we reprogram the mind." And I was determined to reprogram mine. There were days when I didn't feel any change, when it seemed like nothing was working. But Louise also said something beautiful. The point of power is always in the present moment. So, I decided that even if I couldn't change everything today, I could change this moment. Right here. Right now. And that was enough. Over time, my affirmations became my truth. They no longer felt forced, they felt familiar. I noticed that my thoughts became gentler. The voice that used to criticize me became quieter, softer. And in its place grew a new voice. One that comforted me, supported me, loved me. One afternoon, I remember walking through the park, repeating softly, "Life loves me. Life supports me. Life wants me to be happy." And for the first time I believed it. I felt the sunlight, the breeze, the trees. Everything seemed to whisper, "Yes, we do." Tears filled my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of remembrance, because I finally remembered who I truly was. Louise Hay always said, "You are not a helpless victim of your thoughts. You can choose new ones." And she was right. Every affirmation I spoke was a bridge. From fear to peace, from pain to healing, from darkness to light. Now, affirmations are part of my daily life. They're not just words. They are a sacred conversation with my soul. When I say, I love and approve of myself, my body relaxes. When I say, I am safe, my nervous system calms down. When I say, everything is working out for my highest good, I feel my energy shift instantly. That's the power of words. That's the power of love spoken out loud. And that's the power that lifted me from depression. One thought, one word, one breath at a time. There came a day when I realized I wasn't the same person anymore. I woke up, and instead of feeling that heavy cloud pressing on my chest, I felt light. I walked to the mirror and, for the first time in years, I didn't see sadness staring back at me. I saw me raw, imperfect, but alive. Louise Hay once said, "You have the power to heal your life, and you need to know that." Those words had once sounded distant, like a promise made to someone else. But now they were my truth. I had healed, not because life suddenly became easy, but because I had learned to see it differently. The depression didn't vanish overnight. It faded slowly, like the last traces of night dissolving into morning light. But every day it lost more power. Every time I chose love over fear, forgiveness over anger, peace over worry, I reclaimed a piece of myself. Began to live intentionally. Instead of rushing through my days, I slowed down and noticed the simple beauty I had ignored for years. The warmth of sunlight on my skin. The sound of rain on the window. The laughter of a child in the distance. The stillness of a quiet morning. These were things that depression had once stolen from me, and I was taking them back. Louise taught that gratitude is the fastest way to bring more good into your life. So I began a gratitude ritual every night before sleeping. No matter how small, I listed 3 things I was thankful for. At first it was hard. I'm grateful that I survived today. But later it became, I'm grateful that I smiled today. I'm grateful that I felt peace today. I'm grateful that I'm learning to love my life. Gratitude turned my healing into joy. Began to live intentionally. Instead of rushing through my days, I slowed down and noticed the simple beauty I had ignored for years. The warmth of sunlight on my skin. The sound of rain on the window. The laughter of a child in the distance. The stillness of a quiet morning. These were things that depression had once stolen from me, and I was taking them back. Louise taught that gratitude is the fastest way to bring more good into your life. So I began a gratitude ritual every night before sleeping. No matter how small, I listed 3 things I was thankful for. At first it was hard. I'm grateful that I survived today. But later it became, I'm grateful that I smiled today. I'm grateful that I felt peace today. I'm grateful that I'm learning to love my life. Gratitude turned my healing into joy. I also learned to forgive, truly forgive. Not because the people who hurt me deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I forgave my parents for what they didn't know. I forgave the people who abandoned me when I needed them most. I forgave myself for all the years I believed I wasn't enough. Louise always said, forgiveness is a gift to yourself. And she was right, it freed me. Now my life feels sacred. I wake up each morning and say, Thank you, life, for another chance to love myself. I no longer live waiting for happiness to come. I create it in each moment. And every time fear tries to whisper again, I answer with love. My body changed too. Feels lighter, calmer, more alive. Because when the mind heals, the body follows. I started to listen to it, to talk to it, to thank it. Every cell in me began to respond to the language of love. Louise always reminded us, the body loves you, it's always trying to heal you. And I finally believe that. There's a deep peace that lives in me now. Not the kind that depends on perfect circumstances, but the kind that comes from knowing I am safe, I am loved, and I am whole. Depression no longer defines me. It was the path that led me back home, to myself, to my heart, to the truth that I am and always have been enough. I healed not because I found the light, but because I became it. If you are listening to this, and you are still in that dark place, please know you are not alone. I know that emptiness that feels endless. I know what it's like to cry quietly so no one hears. I know what it's like to look at your own reflection and not recognize the person staring back. But I also know this. There is light inside you. Even when you can't see it. Even when it feels gone. It's still there. Waiting patiently for you to remember. Louise Hay once said, "In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole and complete." That means that even now, in your pain, in your confusion, in your exhaustion, you are not broken. You are becoming. You are unfolding into the most beautiful version of yourself. Healing is not about erasing your past. It's about embracing it, gently, and saying, "Yes, this happened, but it no longer defines me." It's about speaking to your heart with love over and over until it believes you. Because your heart listens. Your body listens. Your soul listens. And when you start speaking to yourself with kindness, everything begins to change. I healed myself from depression the day I stopped fighting my pain and started loving it. Because pain was never my enemy. It was my teacher. It showed me where I had abandoned myself, where I needed love the most. And the moment I stopped running from it, it transformed. Louise Hay taught that love is the great miracle cure. And she was right. Love, pure, patient, unconditional love, was the medicine my soul was waiting for. Not from others, but from me. So today I want you to try something simple. Put your hand over your heart and whisper, "I am safe. I am healing. I am loved." Even if you don't believe it yet, say it. 'Cause every time you do, your cells listen. Your mind listens. Your life listens. And soon you'll notice something. The heaviness will start to lift. The silence will feel less lonely. And you'll begin to see glimpses of peace. Not from outside, but from within. Your healing will not look perfect. Some days you'll feel like you're moving backward. That's okay. Healing is not linear, it's a dance. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But always moving toward the light. And one day you'll wake up and realize, you did it. You survived what you thought would destroy you. You made it through the nights you thought would never end. And you'll smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you are. Louise Hay's words echo in my heart. The past has no power over me. I am free. And I want you to know you can be free too. So take a deep breath. Forgive yourself. Start again as many times as you need. Because you are the medicine. You are the miracle. You are the light. And if you ever forget that, just remember this. You are loved. You are enough. And you can heal completely, beautifully, and forever.